She contributed thousands of dollars to her own campaign while the state says she was illegally collecting food stamps. Last night we told you about the felony charges state Senate candidate Bekah Halat faces for welfare fraud. KTVA 11's Liz Raines has continued to dig into the candidate's background and joins us now with what else in Halat's candidacy doesn't check out, including a pageant crown. Liz.
But Joe, after the state came out with felony charges against Halat for welfare fraud earlier this month, we wondered whether the rest of Halat's story checks out, and it turns out there's quite a bit that doesn't.
On paper, 33-year-old Bekah Halat is an accomplished woman. Her campaign website says she owns 2 businesses and lists more than a dozen awards, including being named Mrs. Alaska in 2014. But we couldn't find any evidence of Halat in that role. In fact, according to the Mrs. Alaska USA's website, Mrs. Alaska 2014 was a woman named Erica Chilla, and the Mrs. Alaska America pageant says their winner that year was April Wallen. Both pageants say they're the only 2 sanctioned pageants in the state. According to their records, Halat has never won a state pageant, though she has competed in the past. But that's perhaps the most benign of the inconsistencies in Halat's campaign. Earlier this month, the state of Alaska filed felony charges against Halat and her husband Jarek for welfare fraud. According to charging documents, investigators found the couple had a bank account that contained between $35,000 and $40,000 at the time. The state later concluded the couple was well above the food stamps resource limit during the entire time they received food stamps. During that time, Halat somehow contributed thousands of dollars of her own money to her campaign. According to state records, Halat made 2 $2,000 deposits just last month while on public assistance. Halat identifies as self-employed, listing her occupation as a businesswoman. But according to state records, Halat has just 1 active business license for a mobile food service called Super Beans. A Facebook page with that name identifies the business as a coffee shop. But when we went to the location listed online, all we found was an empty parking lot. With several claims that don't appear to match up, Halat's bid for office now raises questions about whether what's printed on her campaign site is really an accurate reflection of what's written in her past.
Now, we've reached out to Halat about all of these discrepancies, including whether Super Beans is still operational, but have not received a response. Meanwhile, she and her husband are scheduled for an arraignment on charges of food stamp fraud on August 24th. That's 3 days after the primary election, Joe.
Liz, if Halat is convicted of those charges, what kind of penalty does she face?
Well, since those are felony charges, Halat could get jail time up to 6 years if convicted on all charges. Her husband also faces similar charges.
All right, Liz, thanks. There's expected to be some heated testimony tonight at